Good afternoon, ma'am. This is a case of a 38-year-old multiparous lady who has presented with menorrhagia. I've been provided with a pelvic radiograph, AP view of this person. There is evidence of a soft tissue lesion in the pelvis, predominantly on the right side, going across the midline onto the left. There is diffuse calcification, which appears almost amorphous in the lesion. There is no obvious fat density which is seen in the lesion. The bilateral SI joints appear normal, the bilateral hip joints appear normal, and the rest of the bones appear normal.
Okay, so in correlation with the history, or this may be an incidental finding, what do you think if this X-ray constitutes reporting?
Given the history of the patient and and the soft tissue lesion in the pelvis with calcification, my first differential would be a calcified fibroid.
Okay.
My second differential would be calcified adnexal lesions, either epithelial or stromal tumors with calcification. Or with regards to the uterus and the adnexa, these would be my differentials, ma'am. Other than that, it could also be any.
And suppose that's just go back to the X-ray. Suppose this is an incidental finding. What are the other calcifications in the pelvic region that you would think of?
Ma'am, it could be a vascular malformation with phlebolytids, possibly. There could also be it could be mucinous carcinoma, probably arising from the sigmoid colon or the colon, or maybe a calcification of the urinary bladder, probably because of tuberculosis, although these would be much lower down. My first differentials would be uterine mass or an adnexal mass with calcification.
What's the commonest ovarian mass which shows calcification?
Dermoid, ma'am. Dermoid.
Okay, missed that out, I think. And what is the pattern of calcification in a fibroid, degenerating fibroid, or in a dermoid? Because they're generally quite typical.
Yes, in a dermoid, the calcification would be tooth-like, very organized and tooth-like. Whereas in a fibroid, the calcification would be denser and in patches rather than it being very diffusely present throughout the lesion. This appears very diffuse now.
Okay. So definitely this X-ray is not solving a problem for the patient. So what is the commonest modality that you would do for a female patient who comes with menorrhagia? And have you been given that modality?
Yes, ma'am. I would go ahead with an ultrasound next, and I've been provided with transabdominal ultrasound.
Okay, so go ahead with that.
Ma'am, on the ultrasound images, the uterus appears normal. The endometrium is central and it's thin. In the right hemipelvis, in the adnexa, there is a relatively well-defined hypoechoic lesion with some echogenic foci in the periphery and in the center. The lesion is not showing any posterior acoustic enhancement distal to this hypoechoic lesion. The uterus is lying closely abutted by the lesion and it's displaced. The endometrium is normal, ma'am. The lesion is also extending onto the left adnexa, ma'am.
Okay, so what is your impression based on the ultrasound findings? You see a hypoechoic lesion in the adnexa with echogenic foci in the within it.
Since this was a hypoechoic lesion, my first thought was cystic, but then there was no posterior acoustic enhancement. So I'm thinking more in terms of a solid lesion with some calcification.
Could there be a reason which is masking the enhancement, posterior acoustic enhancement?
It could be because of the calcification. Extensive calcification could have masked it. So I'm still, I can't conclusively say if it is a cystic lesion and the posterior acoustic enhancement has been masked because of calcification, or if this is a solid lesion with calcification within it.
And we had some other differentials like mucinous carcinomas and all that. Are you any wiser doing the ultrasound?
No, ma'am, I don't think dermoid I would rule out on the ultrasound, ma'am, because there are no ultrasound. Ma'am, I don't see any fat fluid levels or any other tip of the iceberg sign.
Is it always seen?
It's not always
exactly. How does it develop?
Ma'am, it's a one second. Sorry. It's a germ cell tumor, and it is predominantly cystic, but it also has components from various other germ lines. And if it were predominantly from the ectodermal origin, then it would be a dermoid. And there would. I can't.
So a teratoma can have a variable appearance.
If it is.
What germ cell line is predominant in the histopathology?
Yes,
right?
Yes, ma'am.
So would you really rule it out, or?
No, I wouldn't rule it out, ma'am. I wouldn't rule it out, but I would also consider the possibility of a solid tumor with calcification. Okay. I would want to do a Doppler.
Okay, so what kind of solid tumor?
Ma'am, a stromal tumor. A stromal tumor, since we also saw calcification, and even here there's calcification, I would think sex cord stromal tumor, maybe in the fibrothecoma spectrum, or a Brenner tumor.
What is the typical appearance of fibrothecomas on ultrasound?
Ma'am, they are hypoechoic lesions. They can have calcification within it. And it depends on the histological grading of the tumor, ma'am. So if the tumor is more in the thecomatous spectrum, then it would be more cystic appearing. Whereas if it is more in the fibromatous spectrum, then it would be more solid appearing and hypoechoic. So if it is a combination of the two things, then it depends on the proportion of what tissue there is. But there is also calcification which is seen. And yes, ma'am.
And have we ruled out a fibroid altogether?
No, ma'am, I haven't ruled out a fibroid. It could be a subserosal fibroid, or it could be a parasitic fibroid with extensive calcification, ma'am.
What are the other locations where you can see a leiomyoma in the pelvis? One is subserosal or intramural fibroid. And where else can they happen?
Broad ligament fibroid could also arise now.
I've heard of pedunculated fibroid.
Yes, ma'am.
Can that be a possibility in this case?
It could be, ma'am, on ultrasound.
Okay, so what is your 1, 2, 3? What is your differential on this? Now we have one X-ray and one ultrasound.
Ma'am, given the demographics of the patient and going by the incidence of fibroids, I think my first possibility would still be a subserosal fibroid.
Okay.
Yes. My second possibility would be an adnexal lesion, as in an ovarian lesion, as in either a dermoid or a stromal tumor, sex cord stromal tumor, Brenner's tumor, that spectrum, ma'am.
How common are sex cord stromal tumors? And what is the clinical presentation? Because we are talking of fibrothecomas possibly here. What is the clinical presentation of them? What is the age group?
Ma'am, fibromas are generally incidental, but thecomas are estrogenically active. So then there would be endometrial thickening, patient would present with bleeding, menorrhagia, and these complaints, ma'am. But fibromas are generally asymptomatic. They can be a part of the Mead spectrum. Then there can be ascites or pleural effusion that may arise, but otherwise they're asymptomatic, ma'am. Brenner's tumor, on the other hand, they're much smaller tumors. They have a lot of calcification. Patient will present with menstrual bleed. So that is also possible, but they are much smaller. That is slightly atypical for this patient.
Okay, so have you been given a problem-solving modality, cross-section modality?
Yes, ma'am, I have MR, ma'am. I've been provided with multiplanar MR images in T1, T2, and post-contrast images. On MRI,
anyone,
the lesion.
Anyone and describe, and then show the other findings.
Yes, ma'am. The lesion is relatively well defined. It appears hypointense on T2 and T1 sequence. The lesion is closely abutting the uterus and displacing it onto the left. The lesion is also indenting onto the right wall of the urinary bladder and the anterior wall. The lesion appears homogeneously hypointense on T2, and on T1 images, it shows some intense foci. The ovaries are not seen separate from the lesion on multiple images. There is also some fluid in the POD, and the fat planes with all the organs that it is coming in contact with is relatively maintained, ma'am. And on post-contrast images, the lesion is showing heterogeneous areas of enhancement.
What is the pain with the uterus like? Does it have a broad area of contact, or do you think there could be a peduncle?
Ma'am, it is in contact with it, but there's no signal change in the uterus as such.
Basically, how do you segregate a pedunculated or a broad ligament fibroid from an adnexal lesion? What is the imaging feature?
Yes, ma'am. I would like to look for the vascular pedicle sign, ma'am. If it were a subserosal fibroid, then there would be a pedicle of vessels between the uterus and the mass. Whereas if it is the vascular pedicle sign.
Okay.
Bridging vessels.
Bridging vessel sign is more commonly used, yes.
Yes, ma'am. And if it is a adnexal lesion, then the sign would not be seen, and also the ovaries will not be seen separately from the lesion if it is an ovarian mass. And none of the sections can I actually see the ovaries separately. So I'm thinking more in terms of a T1 hypointense lesion arising from the ovary, ma'am.
So what could that be? That kind of a hypointense, because this is not just hypointense, it is very darkly hypointense. Yes, so what kind of tumors could give this kind of appearance?
Ma'am, either a fibrothecoma spectrum or a Brenner's tumor, ma'am.
There is something more common which can be T2 dark in ovary, in adnexa.
Endometrioma, ma'am.
That can also have a very complex range of appearances. Would you rule that out?
Ma'am, the enhancement wouldn't look so heterogeneous and diffuse if it were an endometrioma, ma'am.
Okay, there is enhancement. So can there be enhancement in endometriomas?
It can be, ma'am.
In which situations?
If it is a chronic endometrioma with...
they're all chronic.
Yeah. If there is any soft tissue which is developed...
When does it develop? That is what I'm asking.
An endometrioid carcinoma or a clear cell carcinoma.
Yes, one is a malignant conversion, and there is one
or if there is decidualization within it, if the patient is
pregnant. The patient is pregnant. Yes. Okay. So the second situation, of course, does not apply to our case. But in some situations, because she's already 38-year-old, endometrioma can develop enhancing soft tissue. And what about adherence to the uterus? What about the other? You've been given a T2 fat site. What do you think about the pelvic fat? Is there any congestion, any inflammatory changes? Can it be so dark, endometrioma? In what situation would it be so dark?
If the hemosiderin has deposited over it for very... No, ma'am, I don't think it can be so dark. We don't talk about T2 dark spots, but I haven't...
Okay, so generally speaking on MRI, what kind of lesions or structures or things can have this kind of a T2 cell?
Fibrous tissue generally.
Fibrous tissue, okay. But more commonly and more starkly dark, hemosiderin. And
gas,
air, and why is air dark on T2?
Ma'am, because there is no proton.
No proton.
Sorry.
Okay, go on. Air has protons. It has oxygen, nitrogen.
But it's the density of that is much lesser.
Susceptibility?
Yes, ma'am, susceptibility.
Air, hemosiderin.
Hemosiderin.
Maybe fibrous tissue, usually not so dark, but it can be dark. And anywhere in body, I'm just asking T2 dark, so dark.
cortex, bone cortex of
Bone cortex. Ossification. So one more parallel to ossification.
calcification.
Calcification. Yes. And
that's all I can think of.
that's all. Think
This dark I don't.
in hemorrhage.
Yes, ma'am. Hemorrhage, hemocyte. Yes. Ma'am.
What stage of hemorrhage? Hemosiderin is late. Your oxyhemoglobin, deoxyhemoglobin, intracellular, extracellular methemoglobin.
Ma'am, extracellular meth hemoglobin, ma'am.
What stage of this thing would be? Extracellular methemoglobin. What stage is that? When it comes outside the cells?
Late subacute.
Late subacute. Is late subacute dark on T2?
That is bright.
That is bright on T2. So what stage of hemorrhage is dark on T2? One is late. You see acute hematomas on C2?
Early subacute. Early subacute, ma'am.
Early subacute. Acute hematoma.
Acute hematoma. Yes.
Not hyperacute, but acute hematoma. Because of what stage of hemoglobin is that?
Intracellular deoxyhemoglobin.
Deoxyhemoglobin. Okay. That has a paramagnetic effect. Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
So now, are these solving our problem? Fibrosis, we have said, because we want to suit our diagnosis as fibrothecoma or something. But somehow that calcification pattern, do you really think that kind of calcification one sees in a fibrothecoma?
Brainerd's tumor, I would think, such diffuse calcification, ma'am.
But is it so dark? Think of dark things on T2. No? Okay. If you look at the T2 image and just look at whatever is dark there, then maybe you'll get some idea. This T2 fat side, you can just go to the plain T2 for easier. And try to look for the ovaries again. At least one ovary you should be able to see. Try to look for the left one, okay, I'm telling you. Look in the top row, okay. Give me further hint.
Maybe this here.
This is there, no? It has a pedicle to the uterus. You've been given multiple planes, so you can locate it on the other planes also. Okay. So at least one here. This is there on the T2 fat side also.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So we have done at least 3 modalities, and now where do we stand? What is our differential and how confident are we?
Ma'am, I'm thinking in terms of, since the patient has presented with menorrhagia and it's an extensively calcified adnexal lesion, which is appearing diffusely hypointense on T1 and T2. I'm thinking in terms of a sex cord stromal tumor or a Brenner's tumor.
Okay. Can we go to the other planes? You want to look for the other ovary? Coroner. Look at the first 2 top images in T2 on the right side. What are the situations when it is difficult to look for the ovary?
Either a mass is arising from it or it has been displaced.
So now we're looking for a displaced ovary, because certainly it would have been displaced if the mass is not arising from ovary. Can you look for the ovary here? She's a 38-year-old multi-para. You may not see multiple follicles.
Ma'am, is this?
This is the left side. Now we're looking for the right side. Whether it is displaced or it is actually originating, the tumor is actually originating from there. First 2 images on the coronary T2. Try to see the right side. I can't use my cursor. Okay, I'll guide you. Just look at the top superior aspect of the lesion on the right side, near the right corner of the uterus. Use the T2 image for the ovary. It would be better.
Ma'am, this one, maybe.
I think your net is slow. You can switch off your video. Dr. Ashwini,
Yes, ma'am. Ma'am, is this better? Probably this one.
I think Dr. Rohini's net is also slow. So I'll try to switch off her video. Dr. Rohini, I think your net is also slow. Intermittently, your voice gets broken off and the video pauses. You are now muted, Dr. Rohini.
I've stopped my video. Maybe that will help the.
Yeah.
Okay,
We can hear you now. Right.
Okay, so Dr. Ashwini.
Ashwini, can you hear?
Back?
Yes, ma'am. Ma'am, am I audible?
Yes. You are both audible. Right?
Okay. Ma'am, is this?
The next section, there's a follicle line there.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So we found both the ovaries.
Yes, ma'am.
What could it be?
Ma'am, can it be a tubal lesion then?
Okay.
A chronic hematosalpinx.
Chronic hematosalpinx, looking at the blood density. Okay. What is the situation in which you get a chronic hematosalpinx?
Ma'am, if there is a uterine malformation or if there is endometrioma.
Endometrioma is one. Okay. And sometimes in uterine anomalies, you can get a chronic hematosalpinx, which is not the case here.
Yes, ma'am.
And okay, what do you think is the relation of this lesion to the other pelvic structures apart from the uterus and the adnexa? If you try to look at the pelvic wall,
Ma'am, I can see that there's the muscles which lie underneath it have normal signal. Muscles are uninvolved. There's a fluid collection behind it in the POD.
Collection or free fluid?
Free fluid, ma'am.
Once you say collection, there's something to be drained. Yes, so free fluid.
Yes, ma'am. And with the urinary bladder, it is in very close apposition. I am not able to completely characterize as to it is.
Can you see the ureter here? In any of the images or part of the ureter? What is the expected location of the ureter?
It would open here, but no, ma'am, I can't see the ureter.
Okay. Can you please say this?
Yes, ma'am.
Right lateral, just on the medial of the lesion, the structure, follow it down or at least in two sections, you can see it.
Ma'am, I would expect to see it opening here onto the lateral, but I'm not able to see
you
it.
You do
exactly
see a small the small bright cystic structure there.
This one,
the expected location of the VUG.
Yes, ma'am. Yes,
and it is going It's not seen only in 1 or 2 sections, otherwise you can almost follow it down caudally, right? So
Yes,
this is the ureter, and the mass is lying posterior and lateral to the ureter. So where does it take us now as regards the location of the lesion? Don't worry about the diagnosis, I'll lead you to the diagnosis. Something is lying posterior to the ureter in the pelvis and lateral to it. Where would it be? In which part of which compartment of the abdomen? Peritoneal, extraperitoneal?
Extraperitoneal.
Extraperitoneal. Okay. So what are the extraperitoneal structures in the pelvis?
Ma'am, the muscles, the psoas muscles, the interstitium, the vessels, ma'am.
Vessels. And do you see the vessels? What vessels are normally expected here?
Ma'am, the iliacs. I would expect to see the iliacs here.
Okay. Considering the structures with T2 dark signal, can vessels have a T2 dark signal, or do they have a T2 dark signal?
Ma'am, flow voids.
Flow voids can have a T2 dark signal.
Yes, ma'am.
So, are you able to see the normal vessels on the left side?
Yes, ma'am.
Symmetrically opposite?
Yes, ma'am.
And are flow voids seen similarly in all the sequences? What is the best sequence to look for a flow void? Would you look for a T1 or a T2 or proton density? What sequence is the best?
T2.
And why? T2 is the best, and why?
Now it's a short
Okay.
Ma'am, because in that plane, the signal is lost as we're acquiring it, as in.
Why is it lost? That's what I'm asking.
Because of
and
flow.
Why do you see best on T2? Okay, give something, some magnetic impulse to the proton runs away. So there's nothing there to
the
give
time of acquisition is long, as in the TE time is longer.
Yes, it has a longer TE. Yes, so by the time you take the echo, the proton is
lost
gone.
By that time.
So can you explain the difference in the T1 and the T2 signals here by this logic?
Ma'am, the lesion is very hypo-intense on T2, whereas on T1 it is not as hypo-intense compared to.
It had some areas which are iso-intense, ill-defined areas. So now we're talking of extraperitoneal structures. We see the vessels on the left side. We don't see the vessels on the right side. You're seeing this dark structure, and we're talking of flow voids. Now, can you think of a structure or a lesion which can look like this?
Ma'am, an AV malformation.
So what sort of vascular malformations can be there in the pelvis? And can this lesion be an AV malformation?
Ma'am, it can be a vascular malformation, ma'am. This looks like a high flow because, no, actually, we saw calcifications on the X-ray, so those could be phleboliths.
So, what do they phlebolyths look like? What is the typical calcification? And do you need any other modality once you see the X-ray on the phlebolith? What is the typical appearance of phlebolith?
Ma'am, the branching and
branching. Why would they branch?
I wouldn't know.
Phlebolith.
Yeah, yes, no,
it's just stone in a vein.
It's just it has a central lucency and
yes,
rounded.
It's round, no?
Yes, rounded with central lucencies, ma'am.
So, what is the pattern of calcification we saw in this case?
It looked amorphous, ma'am.
Okay, amorphous or curvilinear?
Yes, ma'am, curvilinear amorphous.
So, what are the kinds of vascular malformations one can see in pelvis, or apart from the brain? Now we are talking about the body vascular malformations, visceral or non-visceral.
And slow flow vascular malformations and high flow vascular malformations. In slow flow vascular malformations, they can have lymphatic components or venous components predominantly. If it has lymphatic components, they would appear cystic. They could microcystic or macrocystic, and there can be some amount of enhancement along these septations. And the venous component, and isn't the slow flow malformations will have phleboliths within it. And the high flow vascular malformations don't have phleboliths.
Can MR differentiate between
Ma'am,
these two?
yeah. Ma'am, we would need the Dopplers.
We have MR.
imaging
Can you
and-
differentiate slow and high flow
Yes.
malformation on MR? Based on the signal.
Ma'am, on dynamic
We have only
sequences.
conventional MR. Only you just have to tell whether it is a slow flow or a high flow malformation.
Ma'am, a high flow will have predominantly signal voids, whereas
Whereas a slow flow would have.
slow flow would have other components like phleboliths and soft tissue.
And what is the signal of a slow flow malformation, of a venous malformation on MR?
Hyper intense, ma'am.
It is fluid signal and it may
Yes,
have
ma'am, fluid signal.
dependent levels also. It may
Yes,
have
ma'am,
phleboliths.
fluid levels. Yes.
It may have phleboliths also. Okay. So going by this lesion, now we are talking of vascular malformations. What does it look like? Low flow or high
It
flow?
looks like a high flow, ma'am.
Where could it be arising from?
Ma'am, the iliac vessels on the right.
Okay. Now, if you stop sharing your screen, I'll just show you one more modality, then you can just
Yes, ma'am.
comment on it. Correlate with the plain X-ray. There's nothing much more.
Ma'am, there's a soft tissue attenuation lesion in the pelvis, predominantly on the right side, which is extending across the. Ma'am, is there a way I can zoom in the image?
Are you not able to see the whole slideshow?
Just 1 second.
I think you can double click on that and you'll see the whole screen.
Yes, ma'am.
Just briefly for the NCCD, then we can go on to the next, which will reveal your diagnosis only.
Ma'am, there's the lesion seems to be arising from the psoas.
Arising, we'll talk about arising later. What do you see? That's all.
There's calcification, which is curvilinear, and there's a soft tissue mass in the left hemipelvis, ma'am.
Okay, fine. Now this is the angio.
There's aneurysmal dilation of the iliac vessel, ma'am, with few areas of
Iliac vessel.
calcification.
Once you're talking of aneurysmal dilatation, be more specific. Which vessel? Artery, vein, and which iliac vessel? There are 3 iliac vessels.
Ma'am, it looks like the internal iliac, ma'am. The internal
iliac.
Yes, ma'am. And there are some areas of calcification which are seen in the periphery. Probably there was a thrombus which has
So we're
calcified.
talking of aneurysm, and how do you differentiate aneurysm from a malformation or a fistula? What should you see?
Ma'am, a feeding vessel we would see in case of a
Feeding vessel, and if there is shunting, the blood would go to
into a vein also, ma'am.
early
Draining
draining
vein. And
vein.
the feeding, yes, ma'am.
Compare
Feeding
veins
vessel.
on both sides, and do you see an early draining vein here?
No, ma'am, I don't see any.
Okay. Go to the next. Do you see an early draining vein?
Oh, yes, ma'am.
The first row is anterior.
Yes,
This
ma'am.
is not filled up. So this would be the, which is the
Clearly
anterior vein in the
drained.
pelvis? Which is this vein, which is not filled up yet?
And the external
External
iliac.
iliac. Okay. And this is the posterior.
The internal iliac has.
It is filled up. Okay. And
Yes,
this is the opposite side, which is not yet filled up completely.
Filled up.
Okay.
Yes.
So what is your final diagnosis now?
Ma'am, this is a AV malformation of the internal iliac vessel seen in the right hemipelvis, ma'am, with
Would you differentiate
cancer.
a fistula and a malformation? What is more common in adult?
Soft.
Hmm.
Ma'am, malformation, ma'am.
Okay.
Ma'am, any soft tissue component which is seen would go more in favor of a AV malformation rather than AV
What is the
fistula.
basic difference in malformation and fistula?
Ma'am, malformation has smaller vessels and soft tissue component.
What are those smaller vessels? Intervening between the artery and the vein, you see a
With the capillaries, ma'am.
network of channels, while
Yes,
that would be missing in AV fistula.
Yeah,
So you
yes,
have to tell that
direct
as a radiologist.
communication would be seen in
Tell
an
that.
AV fistula, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so this is a Doppler which you'd been looking for. And this was not very helpful because of a lot of turbulence from the calcifications, but of course you can see the flow here, which is quite high velocity. Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
And then this is the video so that for the interest of everybody. So this is the dilated artery and vein. And if you just go caudally, you will be able to see a direct communication between these two. So this is, once there is a direct communication between the artery and the vein, this would be
An AV fistula, ma'am.
an AV fistula. So our final diagnosis would be, so this is a DD after a radiograph, but final diagnosis would be a right internal eyelid AV fistula with aneurysm and venous varicocele. Okay. So
Yes.
this is just that